Welcome to today's live Ielts class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Budapest. I hope everybody is having a good weekend so far. Today in this class we are looking at some questions from our members and I will do my best to answer them. This is a members chat class, of course. You have to be a member to join the chat. And to do that, you need to click the join button besides the subscribe button. If you don't see that join button, you can send me an email to Adrian, A-D-R-I-A-N, at aehelp.com, and I can send you further instructions on how you might be able to become a member of our channel. Hi, Jaspreet. Hi, Hemant. Good to see a couple of our members in the class already. While we wait for some more of your peers, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Be sure to check us out there. And for the general version of the exam, do check us out at gieltshelp.com. That's general IELTS help.com. Hi, Rodrigo. Nice to see you in class. Let's take a quick peek at those websites. You can find a lot of answers to questions in the websites here. This is the academic website here. And members, you do have access to, depending on your membership level, to different parts of this website. So you can find a lot of answers here. This is the academic website here with the blue background. You can click that big red button to join the premium membership. And this is the general IELTS website here with the green background at gieltshelp.com. And you can click that big red button to join. We have lots of members coming into the class. Hi, Preeti. Hi, Rajveer. Hi, Awaz. Pavan, Preeti, Yogi. Nice to see you. While I'm on these websites here, I want to show you where you can actually find a lot of answers to questions and examples for free. You can do this even through your demo course. I'm just going to darken up this screen because, of course, the website is designed to be brighter for your laptop and your mobile phone and computer. So here, if you log into your My Student account, then you have this forum and blog section here, as well as, of course, the Contact Us, where you can directly send a question or information. So members, definitely when you have a few minutes in the day, I highly recommend checking out the different blogs and checking out the forum as well. The forum, students can actually communicate with each other through typing. How many members have actually looked at the blog? Can you guys tell me? Hi, Yura. Hi, Preeti. On the website. So I just opened up the blogs here, and you can see here's IELTS Task 1 and 2, how to use commas. I think somebody actually asked me about that in the last question and answer session. And here are 12 rules. So you can click the read more, and then it opens up. And then you have lots and lots of information and examples of how to use commas appropriately in the English language. So members, don't be shy. We're just openly discussing here. How many of you have actually gone into your My Student accounts and checked out the blog? Because a lot of our blog posts are based on the most popular questions that a lot of students are wondering about with both the IELTS exam as well as English communication. So here you have, for example, IELTS vocabulary, 570 words. Then here you have IELTS Task 2 writing samples, how to score band 8 to 9, lots of different sets. So yeah, Rodrigo, you do have access to that. So you should have access. Again, if you don't, then send me an email. But you have access whether you're on the free or paid version of the website. So this is the general website here, and you can join and pay for all of the materials with the red button, but you can click the green button and access the blogs for free. Okay. So definitely check those out and read through that, okay? We've put quite a bit of time and research into those blogs, okay? Oh, Berendra, there you are. Welcome back. So check that out. Okay, students, let's get into it. So this session is for you members to ask me some questions, and I can, of course, provide you with answers as best as possible. And then after this class, we will have a speaking part too, where everybody will be able to join this chat. So that's going to be in about 90 minutes time. All right, lots of members in the class today. So this is a question and answer session that I do at least once every 2 weeks. That's what you members asked for in the past, to do a question and answer session. So go ahead and ask me questions, whatever comes to mind. This is your chance to get really intimate with the Ielts exam, the English language, with our products, materials. So whatever comes to your mind, if you're thinking about it, probably somebody else is also wondering the same. Rodrigo Duarte says, in some types of essays, we should not use first-person voice I, even when it's forbidden. Is it okay to use first-person plural we? Rodrigo, that's a really good question, okay? And a lot of students ask about that. So this is Rodrigo's question. Is it okay to use pronouns? I'm going to expand your question a little bit, Rodrigo. We, us, our, in task 2 essays. Even if it is not first person, but third person voice. Okay, that is a good question, Rodrigo. My answer is yes, you can. Okay, so yes, you can use us, we, our in third person essays, because these pronouns can be regarded as a generalization of the public or society. Okay, so to put it another way, Rodrigo, us, we, our is basically a paraphrase for the public or community or society. However, here's an interesting point, Rodrigo, and other students who have wondered about this. However, I strongly advise you to avoid using we, us, our in first or third person essays, as many readers feel you are also referring to them, which at times can be misleading or false. So, it is better to use other nouns like citizens, people, society, community. Okay, there are lots of other nouns that are usually more accurate, which are often more accurate in the context. Okay, does that make sense, Rodrigo, and other members who are watching right now? So it was a good question, and I see this often. I see students using we, us, our often in their essays. They're not strong pronouns. They can lead to confusion. They include the second person voice or the feeling of you as the reader or the audience. So you have to be very careful when choosing this we, us, our. Okay? So instead, focus on words like the public or society or students or colleagues, coworkers. So there's a lot of other nouns that are often more accurate. Okay, so I definitely recommend avoiding them, but technically, it's not wrong. Okay. All right, let's go to another question. I think I've killed that one. Hopefully, you'll remember that now forever. It's definitely students overuse we, us, our. Okay. Okay. So, Rajveer. Okay, that's a very, very good question. So Rajveer's question is the next one. We'll go by rank order here of questions. Rajveer is asking, how can I improve my proofreading? Okay, that's a really good question, Rajveer. There's definitely a lot of techniques for proofreading. I highly suggest researching that on your own as well on the internet. Proofreading techniques and strategies. Okay, I don't know all of them, but here's a little bit of advice. So Rajveer, first, always proofread. So okay, Rajveer, I'm not sure if you're asking me how can you improve your proofreading during the Ielts exam or when you're studying at home. So I'm going to kind of give you both. Okay, so let's start with at home. Okay. Okay, let's start with that one. These questions that you're asking me, they're excellent questions, students, and they kind of seem like, oh, there's probably a simple couple sentence response for them, but they're big questions. They're big, big questions. So how can you improve your proofreading is a big, big question. We could almost spend an entire class or two just on that question, but let's touch on some of the important points, okay? So at home, when you're practicing for IELTS or doing work, the first step is proofread as soon as you are done the work. Okay. Whenever possible, and this is where Microsoft Word is very useful, track your changes. Okay, like in Microsoft Word. So sometimes students will actually change good sentences to incorrect sentences. So you want to track your changes and save copies of that so you can actually see what you're changing, okay? And you want to do that as soon as you're done the work. And then second, good proofreading usually requires at least 2 rounds, which means that you wait a day, sleep on it, and then read it again, okay? So after 24 hours, once you've had a good night's rest, with a fresh mind, take a look at the work again and proofread a second time. The brain is a very interesting machine. When we write a piece of work, an essay, and we read it right away, it seems really good. We're usually very satisfied with our work. We're like, hey, that's a great piece of writing. I'm doing really well. And then we have a good night's sleep, we wake up, we're fresh, we're full of energy, we look at the work again, and then we kind of scratch our heads and go, what was I thinking? This is full of mistakes, and half of it doesn't make any sense at all, but it looked so good yesterday. Does that happen to any of you, students? Have you tried that? Have you done that? Where you reread your work as soon as you're done, and it looks really good, and then you wait a day or maybe even 2, you read it again, and then you kind of scratch your head going, what happened there? Did somebody rewrite this? Was it really this bad? Has that happened to you? Have you done that? Have you practiced that before? Okay, it looks like a couple of you have done that. Yeah, absolutely. So that's why it's really important to look at it as soon as you're done, and look at it again after a day and track the changes, okay? Track the changes, all right? Now, another step that's a really good idea is identify your most common mistakes. So okay, so what kind of mistakes are you most frequently making? Okay, and you should have a rank order for that. Okay, rank order these. So, for example, and this is really good not just for the IELTS, but for all of your future literary works. Okay, so rank order these. Like, for example, okay, maybe your most common mistake is word choice. Okay, would be number one. All right. And then, and don't assume that you know this. So sometimes students go, oh, my most common mistake is word choice. But then they realize that it's not. Their most common mistake is maybe verb tense. Okay. So this is just an example. Number three, maybe your spelling, and so on. Okay. So identify and rank order your most common mistakes. The reason why that's really important is then on the IELTS exam, focus on finding your most common types of mistakes when you proofread if you have time, especially ones that cause coherence problems. Okay, so spelling mistakes, a lot of students really worry about them when they're writing their IELTS because they know that IELTS is marking you for spelling. So they're searching their task 1, task 2 essay to make sure that they didn't misspell any words. That's okay, but if you have, for example, word choice mistakes or verb tense mistakes, those are actually much more problematic for coherence than spelling. So if you make word choice mistakes, which often affect your coherence, then you'd want to catch those before worrying about your spelling, because these ones will hurt your IELTS score more than spelling mistakes. So that's really quite important, okay? And of course, practice, Rajveer. So the more you proofread, the better it will be. And especially in the beginning, students, when you're using Microsoft Word or other types of word processing software, be really, really careful with autocorrection, okay? So at home, this is just one more tip here with the proofreading. At home, do not use auto-correcting software or auto-completion software these days. But make sure to identify and track your mistakes, because of course in your IELTS exam, even of course in the computer-based exam, there is no auto-correction of any sort. So be really, really careful. Okay. All right. Okay. And another point, Rajveer, that I'm going to make here, an important tip, is, and I see, because this is a very common mistake in task 2 essays that I see, is to focus on making your writing concise. Okay. So when you proofread, especially at your level, Rajveer, because as you know, you have a very high level of writing, band 8, band 9. So when you proofread your work, think, what grammar, information, and words can help me to make my work more concise? Okay, so that's what you need to focus on. This doesn't mean use simple grammar, but do not over-explain or do not be wordy. Okay, that's another way to say it. Do not be wordy. It means using too many words to express simple ideas. Okay, this is one of the most common problems for Band 6 and 7 IELTS students. Okay, so a lot of students write a whole paragraph, 4 sentences, and the examiner, myself, I'm looking at it and I'm going, really? You could have kind of almost said that in 1 sentence. You're just kind of repeating yourself, adding unnecessary words, and so on. So be really, really careful with that, okay? All right, so again, that should be fairly clear for now. Does that answer your question, Rajveer? Did anybody else have a question in connection to proofreading and what you should be paying attention to? Okay, is that good? I see Parmar Sujal, welcome, saying not only identify your mistakes, but also sometimes a couple of idea changes like psychology. Yeah, you have to have a strong thesis, Parmar, in your essay. That's absolutely very important. A direct thesis is key, as most students know who have been in this class. Okay. Yura, don't make templates for speaking. Just be yourself, be natural. More importantly, practice different ways to answer the basic questions, okay? Examiners really don't like templates. Instead, Yura, focus on answer, explanation, and example. So not templates, but strategy is more important, Yura, in the speaking for a high band score, okay? You're welcome, Rajveer. Barendras is asking what are the changes in the IELTS. Barendra, it's just in the listening section. There's no example anymore in section 1, and they don't call the listening section 1, 2, 3, 4. They call them part 1, 2, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. It's less confusing that way. So it's nothing major. The only kind of interesting change is there's no example for part 1, so the information comes a little bit quicker. Just be ready for that. Okay, Barendra? That's the big change. The reason I'm not writing that is we already had that question a couple of weeks ago and I wrote that up there. So it's nothing that will really affect your approach to the exam. Okay? All right. Okay, I'm going to jump back a little bit here, students, and catch a couple of questions that were asked earlier, to be fair. Okay. All right. So Hemant Sharma says, I have some problems in handling diagram labels in the listening section. Please give some tips for that. Okay. So yeah, a few students have asked that question, Hemant. So Hemant is asking, it's a good one, Hemant. So Hemant says, I have problems with diagram labeling in the listening section. What can I do to improve this? Okay. All right. So my answer, first of all, is you have to visualize, okay? Make sure to consistently practice visualizing the information in the listening section. Okay. So don't just hear it, but actually see it. Okay. So if they're talking about a park and where certain items and certain venues or amenities are located in the park, then you have to make sure that you see the park in your head. Imagine it's one of the parks in your hometown and you're moving around that park, okay? Now, of course, the other really important point here is you must practice directions and prepositions as much as possible in English. Okay. Now, I know that this is one of the most difficult parts of another language is prepositions because they're different. So in, at, on, over, under, beside, adjacent to, those are all very confusing at times, especially when the information is coming quickly, okay? From, for, etc., right? So you have to do this, and I recommend doing a search. So do searches online for keywords like English prepositions and also English preposition and direction exams or quizzes. Okay, so look for that kind of material. There are different types of audio material for that online as well, and practice it as much as possible. So your keywords here are preposition and directions, okay? Because that's what's happening in the listening section often with those diagrams is a lot of use of prepositions. So adjacent to the water fountain in the park, you will find the children's swings. Aside the children's swings is located the emergency first aid kit, something like that, okay? So you have to practice that because it is tough to follow that in real time, all right? So make sure to do that, okay? So visualize the information, practice your prepositions. When you're at home practicing for these types of questions, so labeling, okay? Just a couple more tips for this one. There are a few more steps that you can take. So when practicing at home, go over the transcripts and identify the flow of information. Okay. And another one is if you are still having a tough time, make sure to write down all of the possible labels and then do your best during the 10 minutes to transfer answers to logically guess the locations of those labels. Okay, so sometimes when the information in the listening is coming really quickly, you can still catch what you think are possibly the answers. So you just write them down in your question booklet very quickly or into the blanks on the computer-based test really quickly. And then you realize, okay, these are coming too fast. I don't know exactly where they go, but I have a feeling that these are the titles. So swing, water fountain, pond, trees. So you're writing all of those down. And then once you have some time to review the questions or to transfer your answers to the answer sheet, then you go back to that question and you go, okay, logically, where in the park would we find the pond? Where would we find the water fountain, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the best you can do in that case. I hope that helps, okay? I don't want to just say practice, 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 but definitely it's important, okay? So Hemant, I hope that kind of helps. Of course, again, prepositions. Do a lot of preposition practice. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but even in some different types of English or different users of English, like British versus American, we use different prepositions. Like American Canadians will say, what did you do on the weekend? British will say, what did you do at the weekend? So prepositions are even confusing for native speakers at times. Okay. All right. But nonetheless, you should practice them. Okay. All right. Let's see. A couple more questions. Berendra. Okay, that's the changes in the Ielts. Okay. So again, students, the changes are just with the listening section. It's nothing major. I think there's a lot of people on YouTube who are trying to make a big deal about this because they want to get a lot of clicks and views for those videos, but it's not a big deal. Just be careful that you don't have an example in part 1 of your listening. Oh, and they don't refer to the page numbers in the listening anymore either. But again, that doesn't matter because that was more confusing than not. So that's a good change. The only maybe negative change is that missing example in part 1. Okay, we're going to update our existing exams to reflect those changes as well this year. All right. Jaspreet Kaur says, I have problems in task 1, especially in bar graphs. Okay, Jaspreet, that's a good question. Jaspreet, I'm going to give you a quick answer here. Jaspreet says, I have problems with bar graphs in task 1. Jaspreet, look at the class that we did earlier this week. So quick answer here, Jaspreet, is please look at the live class recording from the 13th, okay? From February 13th. It is exactly about a bar graph. Okay, Jaspreet, so did you catch that? So when you have a minute, not right now, stay in the class, but after the class, take a look at the channel. And if you look at the live videos that are on the channel, the one just from a couple days ago on February 13th is about a bar graph, and I give a lot of advice on what bar graphs are, how they're used, how you need to analyze them, how you need to report on them. I believe some of our members were in that class as well, so they know. Okay, so take a look at that class from the 13th. Okay, did you catch that, Jaspreet? Thumbs up? Yes? Give me feedback. Make sure I'm not just speaking to my camera and only an AI is listening. Let's see. What else? Okay. Preeti Yogi says, I have a question. In reading questions, for example, which paragraph contains the following information has the same strategy as list of headings questions? No, Preeti. Okay. It's not exactly the same strategy as list of headings questions. List of heading questions, Preeti, always focus on what the paragraph is about. Which paragraph contains the following information, so that's called matching information in context. That can be what the paragraph is about, that could be an example in the paragraph, that could be an explanation in the paragraph, so those can be a little bit more challenging, and those ones, Preeti, you're answering after you read the passage, okay? So Preeti's question is, what is the strategy for matching information to the correct paragraph? Okay, I'll give you a little bit of advice here, Preeti. So number 1, review these before you read the passage. Okay, make sure to paraphrase them in your mind. Okay, when you're practicing at home, you can paraphrase them on paper, but make sure to paraphrase them in your mind during the actual exam. Okay, and then visualization is very important for this type of question. Okay. Now, another one, Preeti, is make sure to practice keeping a mental catalog of the information that you read in the passage. So remember, students, that reading that we did a few classes ago about earthquake preparedness? And then in the introductory paragraph, it said that there are 3 key steps to earthquake preparedness: education, planning, and I forget the third one, but the body paragraphs were kind of organized in that manner, right? So that's what you need to do, is you need to keep that mental order in your mind. So you need to sequence what you're reading. It's not good when students read a passage and the information that they read, and this happens in a lot of people's native language, so not just another language. They read a passage or they read an article, and then the information is kind of, it's there, but it's in a mixed up order, okay? You want to really practice your active reading in such a way that you're able to retain the order or the sequence of information. And for that, you have to really practice your critical reading skills, asking what, why, how as you go through each paragraph, and visualizing that information. That will help you a lot with these matching information to paragraphs, okay? Now, one more step that you can take here too, Preeti, is identify. So if you have to search the passage, first, identify whether the given information is a topic, explanation, or example. Okay, this will help you to better locate the information. So, Preeti, if you read one of these statements in the question, so match this statement to the correct paragraph, and it says something like, the reason icebergs float is that they're less dense than salt water, then you know that's an explanation. So you know that you should be looking somewhere in the middle of a body paragraph. Okay? All right. Barendra, true false not given. That's a full class on that one, but there's actually a video. Okay, so Barendra, search our channel for that yes, no, not given, or true false not given strategy. Okay, so please search the channel for true false not given question strategies. There is a full HD video on this. Okay, that's the best advice I can give you right now, Barendra, instead of taking another full hour to explain that with examples. Basically, you have to use computer logic, the if this then that type logic for those. But again, just search the channel for that. There's an HD video on that on the channel, okay, on one of the pre-recorded videos. Of course, lots of information on the websites as well. Okay, let me kind of move back on these questions, because I know a lot of different questions popped up as we were going along here. Yura is asking, for task 1, should I split the analysis paragraph into 2? That's a really good question, Yura. So Yura is asking, in task 1, should I split the analysis paragraph into 2? It's a good question. Usually not. Okay, the answer is usually not. Usually no. This task 1 expository essay consists of roughly I'm not going to go that far. So it consists of 3 paragraphs, which is overview, analysis, and summary. Okay, that's the most logical, most clear way. That's how you would see it in university. Overview is also the introduction. Okay, analysis is also, you can think about it as the body. So your question here, Yura, another way is, should I have 2 body paragraphs? Okay, and still the answer is no, except, so the only time when it might make sense to write 2 body paragraphs for task 1, which means splitting the analysis into 2, is if there are 2 different, I'm going to highlight that, different types of graphs whereby one is an example of the other. Okay, so what do I mean by that? For instance, and some of you might have seen this example. So for example, water use in the world shown as a line graph by industry, agriculture, and domestic. This is a very famous example that maybe some of you have seen online. And then a table that shows water use in Brazil, US, and Congo. I can't remember the exact countries, okay? So here, it might make sense to do 2 body paragraphs, okay? The line graph is giving you the global picture of how water is used among agriculture, industry, and domestic, meaning in the household, okay? And then they have a little table underneath which outlines the different amounts of water used in Brazil, Congo, and US for farming, industry, and by people. So that's a subset of the global picture. There you might choose to do 2 body paragraphs where one analyzes the global trend and use of water, and then separate the next paragraph and say the table further exemplifies this use of water as different depending on nationality, whether it's Brazil, Congo, or. So there you might go into that second body paragraph. Otherwise, 9 out of 10 times, it's just 1 body paragraph. Okay? So good question, Yura. I hope that makes sense. So remember kind of the rules here. I think I can help you a little bit more here. So commas are used to join similar ideas. Periods, or full stops, as they're also called, are used to separate linked but different ideas. Okay, they separate sentences, right? Okay. Paragraphs are used to separate different ideas that are associated under the same context. Okay, so that's kind of how you have to think about that. Does that make sense, students? That's a really important, I know it takes practice, and I make that sound like, oh, that's easy. Yeah, sure. But it does take practice. So commas are used to join similar ideas that are tightly connected. Periods or commas, they separate sentences which contain ideas that are linked, but they're different from each other. Okay? And then paragraphs separate different ideas that belong to the same context. Okay? That's what you have to understand. All right, does that make sense? So that's why in most situations, the body paragraph doesn't go beyond this level. But in some rare cases, it does have this level of separation as well. Okay? All right. Okay, students, I'm going to stop there. I think that's lots of information for today. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of the questions. I know there are lots more questions. You can always send me an email with your questions, and I will definitely do my best to answer. Adrian@aehelp.com. And again, for all of our viewers and our students, make sure to check out our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS, and gltshelp.com for general. Again, on both of those websites, you have loads of information. You can join the premium package by clicking that red button, but you can also join for free and try it out with the green button, and there's still a lot of valuable information there. You can check out the forum, communicate to other students. You can check out these blog topics. There's quite a few of them. We're always adding new ones. There's HD videos, so definitely go there and kind of browse around, search around, okay? You're very welcome, Preeti. You're very welcome, Rodrigo, Rajveer. Again, my apologies if I didn't get to every single question, but threat not, we will have more of these classes in the future. And of course, you can communicate on the channel and with each other as well to find answers to your inquiries. Okay. All right, students, in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, we have speaking part 2, cue card, original question coming up with strategy example that we'll work through together. So make sure you join up for that. And until then, I bid you farewell. Have an awesome time. Hopefully, see you soon. Bye for now.